Hello students. So in our today's class we are going to discuss about the elements that are present in an organic compound. Okay. So basically it is a qualitative analysis. Qualitative analysis. That means not the quantity we will calculate here, just what are the different types of elements that are present in an organic compound that we will detect in this part. So as we know that hydrocarbons mainly contain hydrogen and carbon. Hydrocarbons mainly contain hydrogen as well as carbon, but along with hydrogen and carbon many other different elements can also be present in a organic compound. So that can be sulfur, okay, then nitrogen could be present, sulfur, nitrogen, after that halogens. Halogens means chlorine, bromine, iodine, this could be present, and then is phosphorus. Okay, so halogens, sulfur, nitrogen, halogens and phosphorus. So normally halogen means we consider these three: chlorine, bromine and iodine. Fluorine is not considered always because fluorine is highly reactive. Okay, so that is difficult in some cases to detect the fluorine or to separate it from other elements. So therefore we normally discuss about these three halogens. Okay, so these all elements can be present in a organic compound or in hydrocarbons. So it is important to detect that whether they are present in an hydrocarbon or not, and for this purpose different types of tests are there through which we could predict or through which we could determine their presence in an organic compound. So first we will detect the presence of carbon and hydrogen. As we all know, these two are obviously present, these two must be present, because of this the name hydrocarbon comes. But how we could confirm our analysis, or how we could confirm our guess or prediction? So for this way, copper oxide test is done. Copper oxide test. Okay, so in this test first of all the hydrocarbon compound is taken. Okay, the hydrocarbon compound is taken and 3 times greater than the mass of the hydrocarbon, copper oxide is taken. That means if we have taken x gram of hydrocarbon, then we have to take 3x gram of copper oxide. That means 3 times of its weight. Okay, 3 times of the weight of the hydrocarbon, copper oxide has to be taken. After that we have to take them in a test tube. Okay, in a test tube dry copper oxide is taken, and then the hydrocarbon is taken. Okay, then this mixture is heated in a glass test tube. So first, suppose this is a test tube. Which is placed in a bent position. Okay, and now here this mixture is present, x gram of the organic sample and 3x gram of copper oxide. This mixture is taken in this test tube. This mixture is taken here. Now it is heated by using a Bunsen burner. Okay, this mixture is heated by using a Bunsen burner. Now what will happen? So as the organic sample, as it contains carbon as well as hydrogen, so whenever they are heated in presence of copper oxide, So carbon, first it will react with copper oxide, forming carbon dioxide gas, and copper will be precipitated or copper will be deposited separately. Okay, so carbon, whenever it is heated with copper oxide, it will form carbon dioxide gas, and the metallic copper, it will be precipitated out. So that means we are getting the gaseous CO2 here, because carbon dioxide is normally present in the gaseous form, as well as we are heating this, so therefore it will be in the gaseous form. And as hydrogen is also present, carbon is also present in the organic sample, along with this hydrogen is also present in the organic sample. So whenever we are heating this, or 2H plus CuO, so what will happen? Hydrogen will react with oxygen atom, making water molecule, plus again metallic copper will be separated out, or it will be deposited. So water that will be obtained, it will also be obtained in the gaseous form. So that means a gaseous mixture. So initially we have taken the mixture of x gram of organic sample and 3x gram of copper oxide in a test tube. Then it is heated with the help, this one, okay, x gram of sample, organic sample, and 3x gram of copper oxide. Now it is heated with the help of this Bunsen burner. So by heating this, what will happen? This organic sample contains carbon as well as hydrogen. So when carbon is heated, it will react with copper oxide, and carbon will be oxidized to CO2, right? Carbon, it will be oxidized to CO2 by addition of oxygen, and hydrogen 2H, it will be oxidized to H2O by combination with the oxygen. So carbon and hydrogen which were present in the organic sample, they will be oxidized to their oxides, that is CO2 and H2O, and both of them are gaseous in nature. So a gaseous mixture will be obtained from here. A gaseous mixture will be obtained from here. So for the evolution of the gas, there is a tube here present. There is a tube present here. Now, first of all, the tube is connected with a bulb containing anhydrous copper sulfate. It is connected with, this tube is connected with a bulb that contains anhydrous copper sulfate, and after that this tube, it is bent into a test tube that contains lime water. Lime water means calcium hydroxide, slaked lime, okay, calcium hydroxide. So so why we have taken this anhydrous copper sulfate and lime water here? Just to identify or to detect the presence of these two gases here, that carbon dioxide and water. So anhydrous copper sulfate, anhydrous means what? Anhydrous means which is lack of water, okay, where water is not present. So copper sulfate is actually present or found in the blue form, that is called blue vitriol. But when it is found in the anhydrous form, then it is having white color. So this anhydrous copper sulfate is white in color. But now the gaseous mixture containing CO2 and water is passing through this tube. The gaseous mixture containing CO2 and water is passing through the tube, okay, it is passing through the tube. So what will happen? So whenever this anhydrous copper sulfate, it will come in contact with the water molecule, so it will absorb the water, and so it will become hydrated copper sulfate, and whenever it becomes hydrated, it will gain the blue color. So the reaction will be initially it was anhydrous CuSO4, and whenever it absorbs the water molecule, it will become CuSO4 dot 5H2O, that means hydrated copper sulfate, and then it will turn into blue color. Okay, it will turn into blue color. So if the gaseous mixture, when it is passing through the bulb containing anhydrous copper sulfate, if it can change its color into blue color, that means this gaseous mixture contain water vapor. So that means water vapor is obviously present in it, and water vapor present means what? That means hydrogen is present in the organic sample. Next, now the remaining gaseous mixture is allowed to pass through the lime water. It is allowed to pass through the lime water. So what we will see, that the lime water, which was initially clear, by passing the gaseous mixture through it, it will become turbid, or it will become milky white. Okay, so why it becomes milky white? Initially it was calcium hydroxide. Whenever we are passing carbon dioxide gas through it, so it will be CaSO3 plus H2O. So calcium carbonate we are getting from here, and because of the formation of calcium carbonate, the lime water will become milky or milky white. Okay, clear this one? So because of this, the lime water turns milky. So this test is used for the detection of carbon dioxide. So as we are seeing that the lime water turns milky, so that confirms about the presence of CO2 also in the organic in the gaseous mixture, as well as carbon is also present in the organic sample. So by these two reactions, by these two tests, we are now sure about the presence of carbon and hydrogen in the organic sample. So that's why this test is used for the for the confirmation of the presence of carbon and hydrogen in an organic compound. So this is also called copper oxide test. Okay, so this test is used for identifying carbon and hydrogen. Next one is detection of other elements, okay, beside carbon and hydrogen. That means detection of nitrogen, detection of sulfur, detection of halogens. So for that purpose, we use the test that is called Lassigne's test. Lassign test. Okay, so Lassign test. So for doing the Lassign test, we use metallic sodium. So what we have to do? So first we have to take one fusion tube. What is fusion tube? So the normal test tube that we can see in our laboratory, the test tube is of 20 milliliter height, okay, 20 milliliter volume, and that test tube is larger than the fusion tube, and the fusion tube is normally smaller, okay, it looks smaller, as well as it is made of a very hard glass, okay, it is made of very hard glass, so it can withstand, or it can bear a large amount of heat. Okay, it can bear a large amount of heat and a large amount of temperature also. So what we have to do now? So first we have to take a fusion tube, and then we have to take a metallic sodium in it. As we know that sodium cannot be kept in open air because it is highly explosive in nature. So in presence of air or moisture, okay, in presence of oxygen or moisture, it can catch fire and it can cause explosion also. So sodium is always kept under kerosene. So for this reason, for this test, first we have to take the sodium out of kerosene. Then we have to soak it properly by using a filter paper, so that the extra kerosene that that moves out, okay, by absorption with the help of a filter paper, and then the dry sodium that we have to put inside a fusion tube. Now we have to heat it strongly by using a Bunsen burner, okay. Now we have to heat it strongly by using a Bunsen burner. Heat it strongly. So after heating it strongly, we could see that at a time it will look like a look like a very shiny ball or a very shiny globule, okay. It will look like a shiny ball. That means it is completely heated. So now what we have to do, we have to take the organic sample and just put the organic sample inside the tube, okay. Put the organic sample inside the tube, and now again heat it strongly. Again we have to heat it strongly until the bottom part of the tube it becomes red hot, okay. We have to heat it very strongly until the bottom part it becomes red hot. So whenever it becomes red hot, now we have to take one china dish and we have to take distilled water in it, okay. Distilled water that is used in laboratory work. So distilled water we have to take, and then the strongly heated portion, the red hot portion of the tube, that we have to plunge into the distilled water. That, suppose this is the tube, okay, this is the tube, and after strong heating, the bottom portion it becomes red hot. That means it is at a higher temperature. Now this bottom portion we have to put inside the, we have to plunge into the water, okay. And then with the help of a mortar, just like pestle, okay, just like a pestle, we have to now break the end portion. We have to now break the end portion into this solution, and we must ensure that no fire or no fire could be seen after breaking this, because if you could see the presence of fire inside the water, that means the sodium is still present there, okay. The sodium is still present, so that means your heating is not completed. So again then you have to repeat this process. So after breaking it, okay, it will make a hiss sound, or it will make a sound. After that you could see that the solution it will become black colored. Now we have to take the solution, we have to boil it for a while, and then we have to cool it, okay. After boiling it for a while, you have to cool it, and then we have to filter it with the help of a filter paper. This solution we have to put in the funnel, and then we have to place a filter paper here. So the remaining solids will be in this part, and the liquid part it will go into this beaker. The liquid part that is obtained as filtrate, this is called filtrate. So this filtrate is called sodium extract, okay. This filtrate is called sodium extract. So this residue part is not required for Lassine test. We have to use only this sodium extract, okay. So this sodium extract you have to keep with you, which we have to use for different reactions, that we have to use for nitrogen test, okay, for halogen and for sulfur. So first I am discussing the test for nitrogen. So this sodium extract now we have to take. Now what we have to do for the test of nitrogen, okay. So this sodium extract that you have got here, that liquid that we have got after filtration, so now you have to separate it in individual test tubes, okay. You have to separate it in individual test tubes. A very little amount you have to take. So in the first test tube the sodium extract is taken, and in another test tube we will take freshly prepared ferrous sulfate solution. These are actually all of laboratory reactions. So first we have to take solid ferrous sulfate and then we have to add water in it. So this solution we have to prepare at that time. Okay, before doing the reaction, this solution has to be prepared freshly. So that's why it is called freshly prepared ferrous sulfate solution. Solid FeSO4 is added into water, as well as this solution is made alkaline by adding dilute NaOH solution. This solution is now made alkaline by adding dilute NaOH solution. Now one thing that I have missed to tell, that is, so whenever we are reacting those hydrocarbon, those organic compound with sodium, so if the sample, if it contains carbon and nitrogen, if the organic sample, if it contains only carbon and nitrogen, so whenever it is reacted with, whenever it reacts with sodium during the Lassine test, here we have taken sodium metal and then we mixed it with the organic sample. So if the organic sample contains carbon and nitrogen, so during the reaction they will react with sodium and they will form sodium cyanide. Okay, they will form sodium cyanide. If the organic sample, if it contains sulfur, only sulfur, okay, if the organic compound contains only sulfur, so then that sulfur will combine with sodium forming sodium sulfide, Na2S. It will make Na2S. And if the organic sample, it contains one halogen, halogen means chlorine, bromine or iodine. If it contains halogen, so whenever it reacts with sodium, it will form sodium halide. It will form sodium halide, just like NaCl, NaBr, NaCl, NaI, just this type. So these are the basic reactions. So as we are now considering the test for nitrogen, so we have to consider this reaction. So when the sample is heated with sodium and if it contains carbon along with nitrogen, so by reaction with it, it will make sodium cyanide. Okay, sodium cyanide it will form. So before this reaction, we have to make this mixture also, freshly prepared FeSO4 and dilute NaOH. This mixture it will form this compound. So dilute NaOH, whenever it reacts with FeSO4 solution, it will form sodium sulfate, Na2SO4 sodium sulfate plus FeOH whole 2 plus FeOH whole 2. Whenever it reacts with ferrous sulfate, whenever freshly prepared ferrous sulfate solution reacts with sodium hydroxide, it will make these two compounds, sodium sulfate and ferrous hydroxide, FeOH whole 2. Now this ferrous hydroxide, it will now combine with that sodium cyanide. That one I have written here, that one I wrote here, that sodium cyanide, okay, that we are getting from the sodium extract if it contains nitrogen and carbon. So this sodium cyanide now will react with ferrous hydroxide. Okay, this sodium cyanide now will react with this ferrous hydroxide and it will form sodium ferrocyanide, Na4FeCN whole 6. Sodium ferrocyanide, Na4FeCN whole 6 along with 2 NaOH. Now you have to balance this. 6 NaCN plus FeOH whole 2. So from there we are getting Na4FeCN whole 6. Na4FeCN whole 6 is known as sodium ferrocyanide along with sodium hydroxide. Okay. Now what will happen? Now here this iron, it is present in the 2 oxidation state. iron is present here in 2 oxidation state, but now after heating this one with concentrated H2SO4, so after this reaction, after mixing this and after mixing this mixture with the sodium extract, right, we have taken 2 test tube. In this test tube we have made this mixture of FeSO4 and NaOH, where we are getting these 2 products, and in another test tube there is the sodium extract. So sodium extract means if it contains nitrogen, so NaCN is there. Now we have to take this 2 test tube and we have to mix the 2 solution. So by mixing them, FeOH whole 2 will react with NaCN, forming sodium ferrocyanide. So here iron is present in the +2 oxidation state. Now this mixture by adding these 2 extracts, now this mixture again has to be heated in presence of concentrated H2SO4. This mixture has to be heated in presence of concentrated H2SO4. So as we know, H2SO4 is a very strong oxidizing agent. Okay, so it will oxidize the Fe2 into Fe3. So what will happen now? Sodium ferrocyanide, when it is heated in presence of concentrated H2SO4, and in some cases if the reaction is not happening, then we have to add a salt of Fe3. Then we have to add another salt of iron, which is already in the +3 oxidation state. Okay, so it is not necessary to add, but if the product is not coming, so then we have to add a little of ferric chloride. So after that we will get a Prussian blue color. Okay, a Prussian blue color or a Prussian blue colored precipitate we will get as a product, which is because of this compound Fe4 FeCN whole 6 3. This is known as ferric ferrocyanide. This compound is known as ferric ferrocyanide, okay, where this iron is in the +3 oxidation state. This iron was in the 2 oxidation state. Now by adding ferric chloride and by heating it in presence of concentrated H2SO4, this iron is oxidized to higher oxidation state as Fe4 FeCN whole 6. So it will show a Prussian blue color. What is Prussian blue color? Prussian blue is very deep blue color, or teal green, or a color that is a little bit more deep. Prussian blue color. So if we get this Prussian blue color at the end of this reaction, so that means what? That means nitrogen is present, and this is confirmed that nitrogen is present in the compound. Okay, so if you are not, so always addition of this compound is not necessary. If you heat this one in presence of H2SO4, then normally the Prussian blue color comes. But if the Prussian blue color is not coming, then you can add a little amount of ferric chloride. So then the Prussian blue color will obviously come if the sample contains nitrogen. So this test is for nitrogen. So another 2 tests are there, that is for sulfur, for halogens. Okay, so in our next class we will discuss about those 2 tests. Thank you everyone for watching this video. Have a good day.